remakes, remasters, reboot, reimagining? Oh my, we have a lot of re's in this family. Now you might have heard these terms online from casual gamers to hardcore gamers, but it's hard to really get what makes each of them different because the gaming industry likes to change up the definition every time. The most recent case of this happening is with Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door remake. A lot of people are just saying it's a remaster, and I'm just like, no, it's a remake. I find it really frustrating that people blur the definition so much. So when people categorize things as a remake when it's a remaster or vice versa, yeah, I get pretty angry because that's not what it is. It's like me categorizing games that are not an RPG as an RPG. Just because you say it doesn't mean it's true. So in today's video, I want to go over what each of them mean, the differences, my opinions on them, and a few examples. The first of the re's that we're going to be talking about is remake. From what I could research, my definition of a remake is taking the original game and completely updating it from scratch, usually with a newer engine to fit with modern hardware. The main purpose of a remake is to outdo the original in many different ways, whether it's the quality of life differences, game design, and sometimes even the story. If a game is too outdated for the remaster route, then the company tends to go for a remake to breathe new life into the game. Now, 9 times out of 10, I usually prefer remakes over remasters, mostly because I would love to see my old favorites in a new light and remade from the ground up. Plus, they will be updated for more modern players, so they have a ton of quality of life changes that really respect your time, and because I like shiny new stuff. That's the simplest answer. With all that said, not all games need the remake treatment. Case in point, The Last of Us remake. That really didn't make any sense, especially because there's a remaster as well. I know they're trying to milk the cow, but holy heck, what a waste of resources.
Oh, it's quite pleasant actually. It's like a gentle tug. Okay, slightly less gentle now. Ow! My udders are on fire!
All that to say that not every game needs a remake. Now, a great example for remakes done right, we could see in Persona 3 Reload and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. And I want to add that not every remake needs to say remake in the title unless you're Final Fantasy VII. I really don't know why. If anybody knows why, please let me know, but they tend to put things like Definitive Edition, or in Persona 3's case, Reload. All those fancy titles are basically telling you it's a remake. Alright, now time for some examples. First, we're gonna go over Persona 3 Reload. Looking at side-by-side differences, it's like night and day from the original game. Persona 3 Reload was made from the Unreal Engine from the ground up. Persona 3 Reload is a great example on how to do a remake from the PlayStation 2 era correctly, because not only does it enhance a lot of the stuff that's already there, it adds so much more to the context that you don't really even think about when you're playing it, like the expressions or the voice acted dialogue. It's like a completely different game. Another good example is Xenoblade Chronicles the Definitive Edition. Now this one is a bit subtle. Xenoblade Chronicles came out for the Wii and it got a release on the 3DS, which ran like dookie. I do not recommend. Now a lot of people think that this is a remaster instead of a remake, and not gonna lie, I thought it was a remaster as well. But no, this game was made from the ground up with a totally new engine. It's just that in Xenoblade Chronicles they really didn't change much apart from the visuals and some gameplay mechanics. So not every remake needs to be bombastic or things like that. And remakes are a great way to preserve games and to bring out older games back in a new style for modern gamers. And sometimes the remake is, dare I say, better than the original. In a lot of games I got to experience because they're a remake. A good example of this is Atelier Marie. Now Atelier Marie is the first game in the Atelier series. The original game came out in 1997 for the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation. Now I don't know about you, but I don't have a Sega Saturn or a PlayStation lying around, let alone a copy of the game. So I wouldn't have gotten the experience to play the first game in my favorite franchise of all time if it wasn't for a remake. Now, there is a downside to remakes though, mainly when it comes to publishing the games. We all know the developer carousel of doom, where the developer has to be okay with it, the publishers have to be okay with it, the game designers have to be okay with it, and it's the main reason we don't have a remake for Xenogears and Xenosaga. And despite the flaws, I feel like remakes are going to be here to stay for a while, and honestly, I love to see them. There's a lot of games I would love to experience, and having it do the remake treatment is the best in my opinion. But okay, if a game does not want to be remade, it's a bit too expensive, then that's what we call our remastered buddy. Having a game remastered is like putting wax on it and sprucing it up so it's nice and shiny, but it retains a lot of the qualities of the original. So while it's not getting the ground up full treatment like a remake, a remaster is the second best option. From the perspective of video games, a remaster adapts the original work to a different platform and gives it minimal updates like textures or other assets, and adding quality of life changes like the option to fast forward slow dialogue. A good example of this is in the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. It has a lot of improvements that make the games flow more easily, but the main difference between a remaster and a remake is that a remaster uses the original code, engine, and the overall plot of the game remains the same and unchanged. Now the two terms, remake and remaster, can sometimes be really interchangeable, and again, like I said before, they usually don't put remake or remaster in the title. A good example of these is Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XII, the Pixel Remaster. There's a lot of games that are remasters, and I will be sitting here all day if I have to name them all. This remaster treatment is used a lot in RPGs, especially when a game is coming stateside or to the west, and it's used for a lot of games that don't necessarily need the whole remake treatment and can stand on its own with just a little bit of tweaking here or there. For Skyward Sword HD, they specifically changed the button mapping so you don't have to use the waggle control all the time. You can actually play with normal buttons, and they changed the visuals where it has this nice HD look to it. So clearly remastered games could change a lot, that it doesn't disrupt the original code of the game, and they don't have to put so much effort and resources to outright remaking it. It's a good alternative between remakes and ports. Now there is the controversial take that remasters should not be full price, and I agree. If it's a remaster, then please don't charge full price because they're already using the old foundation and they don't need to make it from the ground up. So it's weird to pay full price for a remastered game. But there are some good things though. I've seen a lot of remasters come in like a bundle if there's more than one game, like the BioShock collection, and I love to see bundles. We need more bundles in gaming. All in all, I do love remasters a lot. It's a nice sweet spot for both developers and consumers, if they don't charge full price, that is. Now we're gonna talk about ports. Finally, a term that does not start with the letter R. Now, I'm sure you guys know what ports are, so I'm not gonna harp on this one too long. Ports are taking the original game from the original platform to a new one. Very simple. When a game gets a port, it's not a remaster or a remake or anything like that. So you're basically getting the whole game, and if it's older, you're getting all the jank along with it. Now here comes the weird territory, and that is with reboots and reimaginings. So reboots is a very rare thing. I see it a lot in movies, but not really a lot in video games. Like, it's so rare, I really don't have an example to give you. Someone did tell me that Devil May Cry is kind of like a reboot. Alright, so the gist of the reboot is basically throwing away what you know about the other stuff. Because in a reboot, they want to present a new story, similar to the story that you had, yes, but in a completely different way. Now, this might be a hot take, but I feel like the Legend of Zelda games need a nice, clean reboot. That means the timeline is gone, things you knew about the characters are essentially gone, and introducing new story points and going from there. That's my honest opinion. So a reboot of the Legend of Zelda games with new story points would be a great idea. Now, the biggest downside of a reboot is they tend to have a mixed reception when it comes to the fan base and keeping the story authentic. Honestly, I really need to play more reboots to get an overall opinion of them, but it seems like a very good idea if it's a series that's overarching and has a really long library of games. Conversely, there's also something called reimagining. Reimaginings, on the other half, is a subset that is closer to a remake, only with far more liberties taken concerning the design and narrative. In extreme cases, it can have attributes of both a remake and a reboot, which really blurs the line and makes it more confusing. But hey, that's why I'm doing this video. But to be clear, a lot of this could be subjective, and also there is no clear guidelines to some of these terms. Now, the way I see reimaginings is doing all the stuff that remakes do, but it also takes the story it changes it as well. So the way I see it, the difference between a reboot and a reimagining is really small, but nonetheless, a reboot kind of restarts the whole series, while reimagining keeps the old stuff, but adds completely new things. Now, the biggest example of this is Final Fantasy VII. Don't be here telling me it's a straight remake. I know the first part is called Remake, but that's deceptive. It's a reimagining. It's just not as catchy as Remake. Now, do I want this monstrosity in other RPG series? Yeah, it could work, but it has to be really careful where it doesn't just tarnish the original game and it adds a lot more to the reimagining. It can't just be they added a little bit more dialogue here or there. No, it has to be big differences. So I'm really interested to see more stories that are rebooted or reimagined and to see how it's like. So that is it for my remaster, remake, reboot, reimagining, ports, hoopla. Hopefully I helped you guys understand reboots, remakes, and etc. a little bit better than before. Now here is my preferred hierarchy. First, it's remakes. If they can't do a remake, then a remaster. If they want to get a little bit experimental, then reboot and reimagining. And if they just want to let us play the game how it is, then ports. So that is my hierarchy. Please let me know yours in the comments down below. Would you prefer a remaster or a remake, or do you want to try something spicy like a reboot or reimagining? If you like this video, then hit that like button, and if you like my content and would love to see more, then please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 7K and we're already halfway there. You can follow me on my socials in the description down below. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and as always, play a good game. Peace.